Hello viewer and welcome to Worldview, a program designed to bring you up to speed with trending developments the world over. The name is Xavier Robert, reaching you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. And on our top stories today, dozens of Russian diplomats and embassy staff leave Chisinau after being expelled by Moldovan government last month. Far-right populist candidate rocks Argentina's political establishment, emerging as biggest vote getter in primary election to choose nominees for presidential elections in October. Niger's military says it will prosecute deposed President Mohamed Bazoum for treason. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First on Worldview today, Russia's defense ministry said its forces destroyed a wave of 20 Ukrainian drones over the Russian-annexed Crimean Peninsula. There were no casualties and no damage as a result of the attempted attack earlier Saturday. The defense ministry said on the Telegram messaging app, 14 drones were destroyed by air defense systems and 6 were suppressed by electronic warfare. The ministry said it was not immediately clear what was the target of the reported attacks on the peninsula. Sergei Krochkov, an advisor of the Russia-installed governor of Crimea, said earlier that air defense systems were engaged in repelling air attacks in different parts of the peninsula. Meanwhile, dozens of Russian diplomats and embassy staff have left Chisinau after being expelled by the Moldovan government last month. The Moldovan government said it would expel 45 Russian diplomats and support staff members in July because of ongoing tensions and unfriendly actions. The total will be cut to just 25, a figure closer to the number Moldova has at its Moscow embassy. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the Moldovan government has accused Moscow of spying and backing opposition groups. Moscow denies the allegations, and Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that Moldova's unfriendly step would not go unanswered. Away from that, a far-right populist candidate has rocked Argentina's political establishment, emerging as the biggest vote getter in a primary election to choose nominees for presidential elections in October. With some 90% of ballots counted on Sunday, the far-right libertarian economist Javier Milei had 30.5% of the vote. According to unofficial results, a share far higher than predicted. The main conservative opposition bloc was behind on 28%, and the ruling Peronist coalition came in third on 27%. The result is a stinging rebuke to the center-left Peronist coalition and the main Together for Change conservative opposition bloc, with inflation at 116% and a cost of living crisis, leaving 4 in 10 people in poverty. Voting in the primaries is obligatory for most adults, and each person gets 1 vote, making it in effect a dress rehearsal for the October 22 general election, and given a clear indication of who is the favorite to win the presidency. Discontent is widespread in Argentina, with the economic crisis leaving many Argentines disillusioned with the main political parties and opening the door for Milei, who attracted support by calling for the country to replace the peso with the United States dollar. Away from that, more than 20 people have reportedly died in rain-related incidents in the past 24 hours in the northern Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, a top official disclosed this. Chief Minister Savinder Singh Sukhu said that heavy rains have triggered landslides and flash floods in the hill state. He also tweeted about a flash flood and cloudburst that had occurred in other parts of the state, in which 14 people had died. Thousands of tourists visit the hill state of Himachal Pradesh. especially its capital Shimla, around the year to enjoy its cool weather and picturesque scenery. But the state has been experiencing heavy rains during the monsoon season, leading to flooding, landslides and cloud bursts, which cause further damage. Videos shared on social media over the past few days show vehicles and buildings being swept away by gushing rivers, trees falling on cars and tourists stranded due to road closures. Osaka has appealed to people to stay indoors and not go near rivers. In a separate development, authorities in Ecuador have transferred the leader of a powerful gang accused of threatening a presidential candidate before he was slain to a maximum security prison. About 4,000 soldiers and police officers were involved in the dawn operation to relocate Adolfo Macias, also known by his alias Fito, on Saturday. Macias, who is serving a 34-year sentence for drug trafficking, organized crime and homicide, heads the Los Choneros gang. He was moved out of a jail with lighter security into a 150-person maximum security prison in the same complex of detention facilities in the port city of Guayaquil. President Guillermo Lasso said Macias's relocation was meant for the safety of citizens and detainees. Away from that, now China has pledged to take resolute and forceful measures to protect its sovereignty after Taiwanese Vice President William Lai arrived in the United States on a brief visit. The statement on Sunday came hours after Lai landed in New York for what was officially billed as a transit stop en route to Paraguay. Lai, the front-runner to be Taiwan's next president at elections in January, is on his way to Paraguay to attend President-elect Santiago Peña's inauguration and is scheduled to make a second stop in the U.S. city of San Francisco on his way back to Taipei. China, which claims democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory, has repeatedly denounced Lai's trip. In a statement issued shortly after Lai landed in New York on a scheduled flight from Taipei, China's foreign ministry said it opposed any form of visit by Taiwan independent separatists to the U.S. On a headline story, Niger's military says it will prosecute deposed President Mohamed Bazoum for treason, hours after a group of senior Islamic scholars said the country's coup leaders are open to diplomacy to resolve their standoff with West Africa's regional bloc. In a statement read out on national television late on Sunday, a spokesman for Niger's military laid out the charges against Bazoum as high treason and undermining the internal and external security of the country. Bazoum, aged 63, and his family have been held at the president's official residence in Niamey since the coup on July 26, with international concern mounting over their conditions in detention. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has called for Bazoum's reinstatement, imposing severe economic sanctions on Niger and threatening military intervention if civilian rule is not restored. Still, the West African bloc, which has approved the deployment of a standby force to restore constitutional order in Niger, has said it remains committed to finding a diplomatic solution to the crisis. The spokesman for Niger's military, Colonel Major Amadou Abdramane, in his statement on Sunday, dismissed concerns over Bazoum's health, saying the deposed leader had seen his doctor the previous day. Abdramane were making it difficult for people to access medicines, food and electricity. Elsewhere, Poland's Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki wants to hold a referendum on irregular migration, asking citizens whether they support accepting irregular migrants as part of a European Union relocation plan. Morawiecki announced his plan for a vote on October 15 alongside the country's parliamentary elections in a new video published on social media over the weekend, which included scenes of burning cars and other street violence in Western Europe. The question would say, open quote, "Do you support the admission of thousands of illegal immigrants from the Middle East and Africa under the forced relocation mechanism imposed by the European bureaucracy, close quote. Now, in the video, a black man is seen licking a huge knife in apparent anticipation of committing a crime. The video suggests that the ruling Law and Justice PIS party will use migration in its election campaign, a tactic that helped it take power in 2015. Separately, now people in the Hawaiian resort town ravaged by a horrific inferno have expressed anger as the death toll from the wildfires rose to 93 on Saturday, making it officially the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than 100 years. Officials said the death toll might go up further as search teams continued sifting through the ruins of Lahaina town located on Maui Island. The resort town of more than 12,000 people has been reduced to ruins. Its lively hotels and restaurants turned to ashes. In a news conference on Saturday, Governor George Green said the number of confirmed deaths from the Maui wildfires had risen to 89, making it the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than 100 years. Maui County later raised the confirmed death toll to 93. The latest figure exceeded the 85 people who perished in a 2019 fire in the town of Paradise, California, and was the highest death toll from a wildfire since 1918, when the Colquitt Fire in Minnesota and Wisconsin killed 453 people. Now, thousands of pieces of unexploded ordnance left over from Cambodia's civil war have been unearthed inside a school in the country's northeast, according to authorities. Decades after the brutal conflict and a U.S. bombing campaign starting in the 1960s, the country remains among the most heavily bombed and mined in the world. The miners discovered more than 2,000 explosives, including more than 1,079 grenades inside the grounds of a high school in Kreti province over 3 days, said Hang Ratana, director of the Cambodian Mine Action Center. He told media that the explosive remnants were found after the school cleared land to expand a garden. Images showed some of the masses of dug-up explosives roasted over and stacked in rows. Elsewhere, Israel has rejected the idea of a diplomatic base in Jerusalem for Saudi Arabia's envoy to the Palestinian Authority, PA, who recently presented his credentials to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's diplomatic advisor Majdi al-Khalidi. Ambassador Nayef al-Sudairi, the kingdom's current ambassador to Jordan, was named as non-resident envoy to Palestine and consul general in Jerusalem on Saturday at the Palestinian embassy in Amman. Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen told Tel Aviv radio station on Sunday that the new ambassador Nayef al-Sudairi could meet representatives of the PA but would have no fixed presence. The file for the Palestinian territory has traditionally been handled by Saudi Arabia's embassy in Amman. The Saudi move appeared to be in line with the long-standing and so far fruitless Palestinian goal of founding a state in territories occupied by Israel in a 1967 war with East Jerusalem as the capital. After the break, King of Jordan approves cybercrime bill that will crack down on online speech deemed harmful to national unity. Let's stay with us for details of this and more right after the break. IS group has claimed responsibility for an attack that killed at least 33 Syrian soldiers and wounded several others in eastern Syria on Friday. The jihadists surrounded the military base in eastern Deir al-Zor province before opening fire. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights had said the militants, through the extremist group's own news outlet, Amaq, IS said its fighters had carried out an ambush on 2 military bases, targeting them with heavy weapons and rocket-propelled grenades, and setting one on fire. The group vowed such attacks will continue. Away from there now, Iranian members of parliament have voted to review a controversial hijab law behind closed doors, meaning it is likely there will be no public debate on the matter. The so-called hijab and chastity bill would impose a raft of new punishments on women who fail to wear the headscarf. It was drafted in response to months of mass protests triggered by the death in custody of a woman who was accused of not wearing her hijab correctly. Parliament will now be able to approve a 3 to 5 year trial of the bill. Iran's Council of Guardians, the country's most powerful legislative body, will first have to approve this once the trial begins. Now, members of parliament will then be able to change the legislation, ultimately making it a permanent law. Members of parliament called on Article 85 of Iran's constitution to progress the legislation which allows a parliamentary committee to review bills without public debate. Moving on now, U.S. health officials are investigating the death of a 3-year-old Venezuelan girl traveling with her parents on a bus carrying asylum seekers from Texas to Chicago. Thousands of migrants have been sent from Texas to Democratic Party-run U.S. cities under a controversial scheme. The girl was taken to a hospital in southern Illinois and pronounced dead on Thursday. The Texas officials confirmed her death on Friday but did not share more details. The bus set off from the city of Brownsville on the border with Mexico before it left the state. The passengers had their temperature assessed and were asked if they had any medical conditions. According to Texas officials, further said when it was noticed that the girl's health appeared to be deteriorating, the bus pulled over and security personnel on board called 911. Elsewhere, a federal judge has warned former U.S. President Donald Trump against making inflammatory statements, which he said could taint the jury pool ahead of his trial for conspiring to overturn the result of the 2020 election. But Judge Tanya Chokten ruled that Trump can publicly share some of the non-sensitive evidence which prosecutors disclosed to his legal team. Friday's ruling was a blow to the special counsel who had expressed concern Trump might reveal secret material and intimidate witnesses. At a 90-minute hearing in Washington, D.C., the judge said the historic case was proceeding as normal. The former president is already subject to a protective order in a separate upcoming New York case about alleged hush money payments to former adult film actress Stormy Daniels. In a separate development, the King of Jordan approved a cybercrime bill that will crack down on online speech deemed harmful to national unity. A bill opposition lawmakers and human rights groups have warned against. King Abdullah II gave his approval on Saturday, with the bill now slated as law and set to take effect 1 month after it is published in the state newspaper, which is expected on Sunday. The legislation will make certain online posts punishable with prison time and fines. Posts that could be targeted include those seen as promoting, instigating, aiding or inciting immorality, demonstrating contempt for religion, or undermining national unity. The bill will additionally target those who publish names or pictures of police officers online and outlaw certain methods of maintaining online anonymity. On Tuesday, the Senate passed the bill after amending it to allow judges choose between imposing prison time and fines, rather than ordering combined penalties. Jordan's lower house of parliament passed it last month. Now, at least 30 people are reported missing after a mudslide at a jade mine in northern Myanmar. The mountainous town of Pakant in the Kachin state is home to the world's biggest and most lucrative jade mines. Many of those affected are believed to be locals digging through the mud along the cliffs, many of whom work and live in abandoned mining pits. Lethal landslides are common in the area when heavy monsoon rain pummels Myanmar between May and October. At least 162 people died in a landslide in the same area in July 2020, while an accident in 2015 left more than 110 dead. The Madagascan president's chief of staff has been charged in the UK with seeking a bribe for a gem mining firm, Romy Adriana Rizzo, and an associate are accused of offering the British firm Gemfields licenses in Madagascar in return for around £225,000. She and her associate Felipe Tabuto have been charged with requesting, agreeing to receive or accepting a bribe. Both were remanded in custody after a brief court appearance on Saturday. Adriana Rizzo, aged 46, and French national Tabuto, aged 54, are also accused of trying to land a 5% equity stake in any Gemfields Madagascar projects, according to the National Crime Agency, NCA. The agency said that the pair were arrested in the Victoria area of central London on Thursday afternoon at a meeting where they were suspected of having attempted to solicit a bribe. And lastly, the parents of a 3-month-old girl who was killed by a husky while the family were exercising dogs have been given suspended jail sentences. Kyra King was attacked on 6th March 2022 near Woodhall Spa in Lincolnshire as her parents exercised 19 dogs in woods. Her father, Vince King, aged 55, and mother, Karen Alkirk, aged 42, admitted being in charge of an out-of-control dog. The judge at Lincoln Crown Court said he has no doubt both of them wish every day they could wind the clock back. And with that, we'll wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Xavier Roberts, reaching you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom, and you have been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of our programming today. Bye-bye for now.